Within 5 seconds, 61% of Americans say the cost of living is off track. You feel it. Groceries sting, rent creeps, and your health insurance premium quietly jumps while your paycheck pretends not to notice. Here's the thing. The real inflation isn't just in the headlines. It's baked into housing and healthcare. Before we start unpacking why the economy can look good on paper while your wallet feels worse, why policy chatter about tariffs and GDP misses the bills that bleed you monthly, and how to push for changes that hit your actual budget, housing supply and ACA subsidies included, please take a moment to like, turn on alerts, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any videos such as this one. The stock market cheers, your bank account cries. Both can be true because they're playing different games with different scoreboards. Wall Street lives on indexes, earnings calls, and vibes. Your life runs on rent due the first, premiums the first, co-pays every random Tuesday. One economy makes headlines, the other empties your checking account. Let's break it down. The Wall Street economy watches GDP prints, corporate profits, and multiples. It celebrates productivity gains and margin expansion. That's great for portfolios. The household economy is brutal and literal. It's rent, premiums, co-pays, out-of-network traps, and the daycare invoice that hits like rent number 2. Your wins look like not overdrafting on the 28th. Different scoreboard. Different stress, so headlines say soft landing. Yay! But here's the catch. Your rent doesn't land, it climbs. Your insurance doesn't glide. It jumps a step, adds a deductible, and removes your favorite doc from the network for sport. It's like we landed on a treadmill. National average this, national average that. The national average is an all-you-can-eat buffet when you're lactose intolerant. Looks generous, helps zero. You need a table that serves what you can actually eat. Your city's rent, your plan's deductible, your kid's daycare rate. Averages don't pay bills. Averages blur pain. And here's where the perception gap gets wild. People don't hand out credit or blame based on GDP charts. They do it based on prices at the store and the number on the lease renewal. When gas jumps, the president's approval jumps off a cliff. When eggs finally chill, nobody throws a parade because the rent letter still says 8% and the insurance portal just quietly added a facility fee to urgent care. So yeah, you're told it's a strong economy, but your cart total and your premiums say otherwise. And that's what actually shapes opinions. Run a simple math check. Your paycheck creeps up 3% this year. Nice. But rent bumped 4%, premiums 1.5%, childcare another 0.5%. That's 6% pressure on the fixed stuff before groceries blink. Net negative power. You feel richer on payday and poorer by week 2. It's not a budgeting failure, it's math with a knife. And the little traps keep multiplying. A lot of you are posting the same story. Got a raise, lost it to premiums, and a new pharmacy deductible. That's real. That's the stealth mode. You didn't choose it. It shows up in the plan document like a plot twist you didn't order. Employers love to say they pay most of the premium. Cool story. Then the network narrows and the deductible quietly hikes, so you save on the premium and pay in pain at the clinic. Sounds like a discount until you need the MRI and you're staring at a bill that reads like a used car price. And don't even get me started on the facility fee. Same nurse, same building. New line item that doubles the price because someone reclassified the room. Meanwhile, corporate earnings can pop because companies are really good at raising prices and trimming costs. You don't get to raise your price. Your labor rate is your paycheck. Your cost of living is a menu you don't write. When the C-suite frames higher margins as efficiency, you experience the same theme as no. Your doctor's out of network now. Now zoom out. You've got 2 engines siphoning your raise before you see it. Housing, healthcare. They operate like a stealth tax you never voted for. You don't notice it month to month because it shows up as a lease renewal here, a deductible nudge there, an administrative fee that sounds small and adds up fast. It's not a once-a-year hit. It's a drip, a relentless drip. So we're going to name it the Invisible 2026 Tax. It doesn't live in Congress. It lives in your lease and your plan documents. It's the premium that auto-drafts whether you step in a clinic or not. It's the rent that resets even when the CPI headline cools and every anchor says inflation is falling. Falling where exactly? Not in the one bedroom you're trying to keep. You're not crazy for feeling squeezed while the market's high five. Those are different realities. One celebrates means and medians. The other deals in actual invoices and late fees. The only scoreboard that matters is the one that decides if you can cover next month without moving money from savings you don't have. So here's the thing. You don't fix this with vibes or ticker symbols. You fix it by going at the pipelines that set prices, not the press releases that make everyone feel accomplished. And that starts with housing because even when inflation cools, your lease walks in late and still asks for more. Next, why housing quietly out inflates your wage growth even when when the numbers on TV say the fire's out. If inflation is cooling, why does your rent feel like a Netflix plan that keeps adding hidden fees every season? Because housing isn't reacting to headlines. It's reacting to a decade-long supply mess in a market that learned how to extract more from you without building enough for you. Sounds harsh. It is. Let's break it down. After 2008, builders slammed the brakes. Financing dried up. Crews scattered. We never caught up. Add zoning that treats duplexes like biohazards, and you've got whole neighborhoods where one extra front door is basically illegal. Then mortgage rates spiked, and homeowners holding 3% loans said, "I'm not moving." That rate lock-in freezes listings. With fewer homes for sale, fewer people leave rentals, and inventory stays thin. Low supply, high demand, landlords know it. So the TV says CPI is cooling. Great, but housing has its own clock. Shelter CPI moves slow and stays sticky. Leases reset months after the headlines move on, which means your reality updates on a delay. You read about easing inflation in March and get an email in June that says, "Your new rent will be," and it doesn't read like easing. It reads like a car payment. Here's the disconnect in real life. Headline CPI prints 3%. Your lease renewal is up 8%. That gap compounds on every renewal. If you were stretched last year, you're snapped this year. And if your city had a hot 2023, those rent hikes arrive in 2024 and 2025 like they own the place. Because they kind of do. Supply's the missing character in the story. Years of underbuilding left a shortfall big enough that even strong construction seasons can't erase it fast. The pipeline is clogged at the start. Zoning hearings drag. Permits sit. Land costs climbed. Builders pick projects that pencil, which means more expensive units with the nicer finishes where the math works. The affordable stuff? It's the first thing value engineered out. And rates. High mortgage rates didn't just make buying pricier, they trapped sellers who would have moved. That shrinks listings, starves the move-up ladder, and keeps renters penned in. When a decent two-bed hits the market in an affordable suburb, you're not touring a home. You're entering a contest. That affordable suburb? 50 applicants for a decent two-bed and one landlord with a spreadsheet and no mercy. Best credit, best income, earliest move date, no pets, no parking drama, no fun. But here's the catch. Even when cranes swing, the new stuff skews higher end. Developers need rents that justify high land and labor costs. The promise is that these units filter down over time, maybe years later. And in hot metros, they never get cheap. They become vintage luxury and still rent like a new iPhone payment. Let that sink in. Permitting delays and lot costs aren't vibes, they're structural. A 6-month approval turns into 18. Carry costs pile up. Every month in limbo adds dollars to your future rent. By the time a building opens, the pro forma demands a price that makes Twitter mad and still barely clears the lender's threshold. You feel that in your lease. This is why you keep seeing weird math. Your city throws up a few hundred new units and yet renewals still jump. Because a few hundred isn't enough, because most are premium, because demand isn't static. Jobs shift, households form, people move for schools and safety, and all that new demand hits the same tight inventory at once. You're not crazy. The system is slow by design and expensive by accident. So here's the thing. Macro inflation can cool while your rent climbs. Those are separate gears. Shelter CPI lags. Contracts roll over on their schedule, not the feds. When you hear inflation is down, ask, are renewals down? If not, your wallet won't notice the celebration. The result is predictable. Landlords price to the vacancy rate, not to your raise. If vacancy is low, rents rise. If you don't like it, join the line of 49 other applicants who also don't like it. That pressure gives owners leverage to add little line items. Pet rent, parking, amenity fees, valet trash. That's the Netflix model. Same show, new fee. Housing isn't a single number. It's a pipeline. Lots, permits, financing, construction, lease up. When that pipeline chokes, prices drift up even when everything else calms down. Without supply reform, more doors, faster approvals, sane zoning, your rent is rigged to rise, not every month, every renewal. And if housing is the front door of the invisible tax, healthcare is the monthly drain in your kitchen sink, the one that quietly siphons your raise even when you don't get sick. What if the most expensive thing you buy every year is healthcare you barely use? You pay like a subscription you can't cancel, and the perks show up only when you're already stressed and holding a bill with too many numbers. It's real. It's happening. Let's break it down. Premiums come first. They draft whether you step into a clinic or not. Then deductibles, which reset every January like a bad New Year's resolution. Co-insurance is the sneaky percent that kicks in after you meet the deductible, so you're still paying a slice of every visit. Out-of-network traps hide behind friendly logos on your card. Same hospital system, but one provider codes as out-of-network and ruins your month. And then the facility fee, which is the convenience charge of being seen in a building that a hospital owns. Same nurse, same swab, new line item. Pharmacy benefits add their own maze. Tiered drugs, prior auth, quantity limits, step therapy. Every gotcha sounds small. Together they eat your raise. Employers love to say, we cover most of your premium. Sounds generous, but here's the catch. They raise the deductible, bump the out-of-pocket max, and narrow the network. So your monthly looks stable while your point-of-care cost spikes. The plan doc reads like savings. The front desk asks for a card you didn't plan on swiping this hard. You end up deferring basic care because the bill lands before the relief. Here's a clean example. Last year, urgent care for sniffles and a quick strep test was $120. You go this year, same symptoms, same clinic. On the way out, it's $240. Why? Facility fee. The clinic got acquired, the sign changed, and suddenly you're funding a new wing you'll never see. Let that sink in. People are loud about this in polls. They tie premium pain to policy choices. They want ACA subsidies extended because that's one of the few switches that lowers the monthly number they can't dodge. You don't need a think tank to tell you which button helps. It's the one that drops the auto draft. Now the reveal that messes with your head. A typical family plan with a deductible north of $6,000 turns everyday care into a high-interest loan you pay in advance. You front the cash all year in premiums, then front more at the visit until you hit that giant threshold, which you probably won't hit unless you have a major event. It's prepaid anxiety, and the stories are the same in every comment thread. I skipped PT because the copay felt like a car payment. My back still hates me. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's price pressure turning prevention into a luxury. Then it gets worse later, which costs more, which pushes next year's premium higher. Vicious loop, no exit. Medical debt is rising even among people with insurance because cost sharing creeps up like rent. Deductibles ratchet. Co-insurance percentages stay standard while list prices climb. Out-of-network hits happen on accident. One specialist, one lab, one anesthesiologist, and you're in billing purgatory for months. Denials push you to appeal, and appeals push you to time you don't have. Most people just pay or avoid care. Both choices are expensive in different ways. Pharmacy benefits keep their own playbook. You get told to try the cheaper drug first. If it fails, maybe you can get the one your doctor wanted. Prior authorization delays care, and the clock doesn't care if your schedule is tight or your symptoms escalate. Mail order can be cheaper until it isn't, and the refill window closes like a trap door if you miss a reminder email. And here's the thing, these aren't rare edge cases. They're the operating model. The quietest inflation sits in premiums, deductibles, and denials. You don't see it on CPI day. You see it when HR announces new plan options that look like a buffet and eat like a diet plan where everything costs extra. It functions like a stealth payroll tax. The money leaves before you make a decision. Your employer contributes, your insurer negotiates, and you still pull out a card for a number that feels like a fine. So yes, you can be insured and still avoid the doctor. You can be covered and still carry a balance with a hospital that texts you like a subscription app. The system rewards deferral and penalizes usage. That's not insurance. That's a toll booth, and that's why your raise disappears by spring. First the premium, then a surprise bill, then a denial you don't have time to fight. Policy debates keep obsessing over tariffs and GDP because those make headlines, but your premiums are the ones taking your raise with no press conference at all. If tariffs and GDP were fixing your life, your grocery total wouldn't make you stare at the receipt like it's a horror film. The macro looks tidy on TV. Your cart, your lease, your premium, those are the jump scares. Let's break it down. Big levers like tariffs, rate cuts, and corporate tax changes move markets and headlines. They juice indexes, shift supply chains, and nudge borrowing costs. Useful at 30,000 feet, but you live at 6 feet. At 6 feet, it's unit prices in aisle 5, a rent renewal on your kitchen counter, and a premium schedule that updates like a phone OS. Always improving, always more expensive. Macro can turn a dial. Micro sets your autopay. Here's the mismatch. The public credits or blames the president for the price of eggs, the rent hike, the premium jump. It's human. It's immediate. Meanwhile, the levers that actually shrink your monthly burn, zoning reform, unwinding hospital consolidation, and reining in insurer rules sit in a policy blind spot. No ribbon cuttings for a cleaner site plan or a hospital merger blocked. No viral clip of a network adequacy audit. That stuff happens in hearing rooms with bad coffee and no cameras, which is exactly why it gets ignored. You see it play out in real time. Tariff headlines move markets by noon. Your landlord's 60-day notice moves your budget all summer. The Fed cuts rates. Your renewal still says 7% because vacancy is tight and the building across the street stalled at permitting. Corporate tax tweaks lift EPS. Your health plan refresh lifts your deductible. The timeline of macro is quarters and years. The timeline of your bills is Tuesdays. And yes, people are anxious. The latest CBS snapshot heading into 2026 had this vibe. Optimism about tech, but skepticism on how AI hits jobs, a sense the president favors the wealthy, and a belief that policy is driving up healthcare costs. That narrative gap matters. When the national story sounds upbeat while your essentials climb, trust evaporates. You don't need a chart, you have a receipt. So here's the catch. Macro wins don't guarantee your month gets easier, because levels beat growth when your obligations reset faster than your raise. Prices can stabilize at higher levels while your wage inches up. If your rent renewal, premium, and daycare climb a combined 5% and your pay grows 3%, you're underwater, even if GDP looks great. Recurring obligations eat wage gains first, always. Cutting a federal ribbon doesn't reduce a $700 ER bill for a sprained ankle. Rate cuts don't erase the facility fee your clinic added after a merger. A corporate tax headline won't reopen the PPO your employer closed to control costs. Those are different toolboxes. The screwdriver doesn't hammer nails, and right now we keep bringing the wrong tools to the job. Let's talk engines. Hospital consolidation concentrates pricing power, fewer systems, bigger footprints. More leverage against insurers, higher allowed amounts. Then insurers consolidate and narrow networks, which shifts cost back to you through out-of-network penalties and higher out-of-pocket caps. Both sides play tug-of-war, and your wallet is the rope. Add pharmacy benefit rules that force step therapy and prior auth delays, and you're paying in time and money before you ever get the right med. On housing, zoning that bans duplexes and ADUS plus glacial permitting strangles supply. Land and carry costs stack up. By the time a project opens, it needs premium rents. That's why the affordable pipeline is a myth in many metros. It's not vibes, it's arithmetic. Without unlocking more doors, renewals will beat your raise on repeat. So here's the thing. Policy theater loves big numbers because they're easy to sell. Markets pop, press releases fly. But your life runs on line items. Rent, premium, copay, childcare, groceries. If a policy doesn't change those line items, it won't change your month. Different stage, different tools. Give me zoning votes, merger enforcement, site-neutral payments, and network rules with teeth over another victory lap about output. You're not ready for what's next, because the real question isn't, is the economy good? It's, why did basics, roof, and doctor start acting like designer labels? When the essentials move like luxury goods, every raise becomes a down payment on staying in place. So how did basics, roof, and doctor turn into luxury goods for the middle class? Middle class family, 2 incomes. Housing and healthcare still act like designer labels with annual price hikes that show up like clockwork. You get a raise, they send a bigger bill. That's the joke. You're the punchline. Let's break it down without fluff. Over the last decade, wages crawled while shelter and medical CPI marched. Not spikes, marches. Rent renewals stacked year after year. Premiums climbed like a gym membership you forgot to cancel. Even when headline inflation cooled, the base you were standing on had already moved up a floor. You work more, you title up, and yet the 2 biggest line items keep taking a fatter slice. Employers throw new benefits at you. But here's the catch. The brochure adds mental health sessions and a wellness app. Nice. The deductible quietly jumps. The network shrinks. Your out-of-pocket max balloons. The risk shifts from the company to you, wrapped in an HR email with confetti emojis. On housing, developers build, cranes everywhere, but the units skew high-end because land and labor costs demand it. Entry-level supply is a myth in the places you want to live. You pay champagne prices for tap water finishes? Run the budget like it's 2015 versus 2026. Same role, maybe senior on the business card. Back then, rent was a reasonable third of take-home. Premiums took a smaller bite. You had room for savings and a weekend that didn't require spreadsheet mode. Fast forward, rent eats closer to 40, premiums are bigger, the deductible is a number you say out loud like a dare, and the cushion is gone. You don't cut lattes, you cut breathing room. Here's the downstream effect that never fits in a headline. Housing and healthcare crowd out everything else. Savings gets demoted to leftover. Childcare becomes a second rent. Student loans re-enter the chat right when you thought they were retiring. You delay milestones, not because you're reckless, but because the fixed costs won't budge. The subscription to live here got expensive, and the cancellation policy is move cities. Let that sink in. And the generational math is brutal. Younger workers look at starter homes and see museum exhibits with "do not touch" signs. Down payment plus closing costs plus rates that feel like a penalty? Zero path. Meanwhile, older workers who should be downsizing are pinned by property taxes, insurance, and pre-Medicare premiums that make them stick it out. The move-up ladder and the move-down ladder both jam, which keeps inventory tight and rents spicy for everyone below. Local color time. Starter home. More like pay a luxury tax for a 1978 kitchen and a questionable water heater. You'll bid against 5 offers over list for the privilege of inheriting a beige carpet that remembers the Cold War. And don't even get me started on the drivers at the open house parking scrum. So here's the thing. We love to blame lifestyle inflation. It's clean, it's moral, it's wrong. The villain isn't your burrito, it's structural inflation. Rent rises on vacancy, not virtue. Premiums rise on consolidation and contract terms, not your willpower. You can cancel streaming, run on tap water, and skip vacations. And the essentials still climb because supply is throttled and pricing power is concentrated. Personal finance hacks are sandbags against a tide. The AI buzz in 2026 adds a twist. Markets cheer the tech wave, but most people expect AI to cut jobs, not add them. That feeds a mood where the stock chart looks giddy while workers feel exposed. When you fear churn at work and watch your rent and premium rise, you don't splurge, you freeze. It's not Luddite vibes, it's self-defense. Now, the mechanics that matter. Housing supply is gate-kept by zoning, lot costs, and timelines that make molasses look fast. Developers chase the only deals that pencil: higher rents. The filter-down promise takes years and often never arrives in hot markets. Healthcare pricing rides on hospital consolidation, insurer bargaining, and the fine print in plan documents. Both sectors reward scale. Both make you too small to matter. That's the power imbalance turning basics into boutique. Mini payoff right here. Essentials turned premium because supply is throttled at the front end and price setting is concentrated at the back end. When a few gatekeepers control how many doors get built and how bills get coded, your raise funds their margin. So yes, you can have 2 incomes, respectable titles, and a calendar full of work and still feel like you're upgrading to stay in place. That's not drama, that's arithmetic. Now the twist. Even if 2026 brings a boom and the headlines throw a confetti parade, the invisible tax still takes its cut from your lease and your plan documents, unless we target the right fixes. And the fixes live where the monthly burn lives, not where the press releases party. What if your next raise actually stayed in your pocket? Not half, not a third, all of it. Sounds fake, right? It isn't if we push the right levers where the bill gets set, not where the press release lives. Here's the thing. Your monthly burn comes from 2 machines, the housing pipeline and the healthcare price engine. You don't need a Fed chair to fix those. You need zoning boards that stop blocking doors and health rules that stop rewarding games. Growth slogans won't lower your lease or your premium. Concrete changes will. But here's the catch. Everyone promises growth. Almost nobody touches the zoning map or the hospital's pricing power. Why? Because ribbon cuttings are fun, and land use hearings smell like cold coffee and old carpet. That's where your rent gets decided. Hospital contracts and insurer rules, even more boring, even more expensive. So let's talk housing first. Legalize more homes. ADUs in backyards, duplexes on corners, small apartments on transit streets. When you add doors where people already live and work, rent pressure cools. Speed the permits. Every month a project waits adds dollars to your renewal. Cut the red tape with shot clocks. 60 days to yes or no, not 18 months of come back next Thursday. Incentivize infill near transit with fee reductions tied to actual units delivered, not vibes. And tie every subsidy or tax break to outcomes. If a developer or city wants public money, it should produce a specific count of new rentable homes on a deadline. No units, no check. Now healthcare. Extend ACA tax credits so premiums drop in real life, not just on a chart. Cap cost sharing so a flu season doesn't wipe your HSA. Crack down on facility fees. The "you walked into our building, pay extra" line item. Boost site neutral payments so the same service costs the same across settings. No more charging double because the sign out front changed. Enforce network adequacy with teeth so in-network means your doctor, not just a logo. When networks are wide and pricing is level, your surprise bills vanish. People want this. Polling shows the public supports ACA subsidies and worries that healthcare costs are still rising under current approaches. That's not abstract. That's voters telling you which button lowers the auto draft. And on housing, the evidence stacks up. Supply reforms reduce rent growth over time because vacancy rises and owners lose the leverage to tack on junk fees. It's not magic, it's inventory. You want an example that doesn't feel like theory? Look at a city that legalized ADUS. Once permits got streamlined, those backyard units actually appeared. Not millions, enough to matter in the specific neighborhoods where teachers, nurses, and service workers were getting priced out. Renewals in those zones moderated because landlords had to compete again. On the health side, states that pushed site-neutral payments clipped the premium on hospital-owned clinics, so outpatient costs came down for the same basic visit. Not a miracle cure, a measurable cut on recurring bills. That's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more of the latest updates.